users or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning to everyone. We're going to start today's session. So today's session we'll see how to expose SAP HANA views to BW system. In the previous session, we have seen how to import info cubes as information models to HANA system. Info cubes create analytic views. They also create a calculation view. When you directly expose info cube from the application layer, it creates an analytic view. When you import from HANA Studio, it creates a calculation view. DSO creates an analytic view, both from BW as well as from the HANA Studio. Info object of type characteristics create attribute views. Info objects of type characteristics can also be created. They can also create analytic views if they are made as info providers. If you make info object as info providers, because on an attribute view we cannot do reporting. So if you make a characteristic as info provider, we can report on the object by making it as a analytic view. To expose views, to expose HANA views to the BW system, we can create different objects. One is transient provider. The second one, open ODS view. Third one, virtual info providers. Fourth one, composite providers. Fifth one, exposing HANA tables to the application layer by using a DB Connect. So first we start with the transient provider. What is a transient provider? A transient provider is an object. Now, I want to give an example before we start. A view only has a container without content. When I execute a query on the view, the data comes in runtime. A transient provider, you will not even have a container. Content as well as container is created on the fly. Table has content and container. View only has container without content. Transient provider has no container, no content. It is just an index. It creates an analytic index on top of a view. So this is the information view. This information view going to expose to BW, creates a transient provider. This transient provider is further exposed to the reporting. First I log into Hana system, click Start, click on Hana Studio. Double click on best. Provide the password. So first I'm going to the catalog. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom table directly in Hana. So here is the best schema. I'll expand the best schema. I'll right click on tables, click new table. I'm creating a new table. Let us give a name and the description. So I'm creating a table over here. The schema is best, type is column store. and click execute. It says already there is a table with the same name. Duplicate table name. I'll take it as COPA table 9 and execute. So this table is created. So I'll right click on tables, click filter, copy paste the table name, click whole word, click OK, expand. So here we would see table, right click, open data preview. So we don't have data in the table. I'll right click on the table, generate insert statement. So I'll click on insert statement. I'll give some values over here, 1000. Execute. I'll create one more value. So when I right click on the table now, click open data preview. So here we have two records in the table. Now based on this table, based on the table jet COPA table 9, based on this table, I'll expand content. I'll create a new package. Right click on content, new, click on the package. I give the name for the package BW on Hana 9. Give the package description and click OK. Now here we have BW on Hana 9 package. So first I created a table in schema. We created a package. Right click on the package, new, click on the analytic view and give the name jet COPA table 9. Give the name description and click finish. So once we finish, at the data foundation, I'll click on the plus icon, jet COPA table 9. I'll select this table, click OK. So this is the structure of the table. I'll select required columns. I'm selecting company code and the other two measures. Click on the star join. So we have an attribute and two measure. Click on the semantics. Click save and validate. Save and activate. And assign the request. Click finish. So here we created a new view. Right click on the view, data preview. Now this is we know all these steps we have been doing. Finally an analytic view is created. So here information view, which is an analytic view I created over here in Hana. Now they completed the step 1. In the step 2, we'll log into BW. We'll go to SAP GUI. I'll log into BW. same username and password. Best welcome 1234, welcome 123. W is the capital letter. Enter. Let's go to the T code. rsdd underscore hm underscore publish. Click enter. Now publish SAP HANA model. So where are we now? We are on the ABAP system. Now in the ABAP system, first we need to select the package. Click on this icon. Click find and find for BW on HANA 9 is the name of the package. Let's click find for the package. Select the HANA information model. Click on show list of values and select this data model. Package data model and click create. And click continue. So once we click continue, here you see it creates an analytic index. So transient providers are not physically present in the above application layer. We cannot see these objects physically because they created as an index. They're not available in the data dictionary. Transient provider is not available in S11 or they're not available in the data dictionary of the above system because they're created as an index and we cannot transport them. Usually we create objects in the development system and transport to quality, from there to production. But in here there is no object. So when there is no object, there is no way to transport because object is invisible. So these transient providers are directly created on the production system. In which scenario do we use this transient provider? The transient providers are used to create rapid prototyping models, to create rapid prototypes. Like you don't have to start the development from scratch, create objects, move transports to quality and production. So all the standard way of doing things is not necessary for transient provider because there is no object, it's an index and directly created on the production system for creating fast data models. So when we go back, so this is the analytic index. This analytic index, the provider name prefix @3. So this is the name of the view. A prefix with @3 for the object. I'll go back. click on the characteristics. So we have an object called BUKRS. Click on key figure. So here we have two measures. And click save. Once we click save, you see a message analytic index jet COPA table 9 saved. Once the data model has been saved, you can expose this data model in the reporting. So I'll open an Excel based reporting. I'll click start, click all program, click business explorer, click on analyzer, click on the analyzer. Once we click on the analyzer, click on add-ins, click open query, double click on BW on Hana server. This is the client username. Let's provide the password and click OK. Once we click OK, now we connect to the BW server from Excel. So in the Excel there's an add-in called Bex Analyzer, where you can analyze data in Excel from BW system. So I'll click find, copy paste the object. So we need the analytic index @3 COPA table 9. So we prefix @3 COPA table 9. Search in the technical name, click find, select, click open. So once we click open, to click on filters, double click on BUKRS. So this is the data that we see. So this is the company code for gross revenue. So this is in the Excel table. So now we expose the data from Hana view to the transient provider, from transient provider to reporting. In reporting we are using Excel. Now when we say rapid prototypes, what does this mean? Now you continuously change the data model. Now you see, based on the current business requirement, we are showing 3 columns: company code, gross, and sales deductions. How about adding a new column? Business asks me, also show me sales organization. So what I will try to do is I will enhance the view. Again I come back to Hana. I'll check whether the column is there in the table. I'll highlight this column. Now we have 4 columns, but in the reporting we only have 3 columns. So again I'll validate, activate the data model. The model is activated with 4 columns. The additional column is VKORG. I'll go back to the transient provider in the BW system, rsdd underscore hm underscore publish. I'll double click. I'll select the package, click find. BW on HANA 9 is the name of the package. I'll select the package. I'll select the HANA information model. Now what I can do is I can delete this index. I'll delete this index, delete publication analytic index, and click yes. I deleted the object and then recreate the object again and click continue. Click cats. Now this time we have 2 objects. When you delete and recreate the object, it creates the same technical name. There's no difference in the technical name, but only that you have an additional object. Just like information view, key figure, and click save. Once we save, again the analytic index is created. I'll copy this technical name. Let's go back to the Excel. Excel still displays 3 columns. Now I can the Excel is not responding. I'll close Excel and reopen again. So I'll open the analyzer again. Click on add-in. Click on add-ins. Open. open query, double click on BW. Just give the password, click OK. Let's find for the technical name, click find, select the object and click open. Once we open, this time we should be additionally able to see the other two objects, BUKRS and sales organization. So in this way, whatever the view that we enhance in the underlying, I can re-expose the view to BW and then to the reporting instantly, because nowhere we store data or the metadata. The data and metadata, everything is in Hana. In BW, we only create an index, and this index I'm able to access in the reporting. So what is the use case for a transient provider? The use case for a transient provider is whenever business want to build rapid prototypes, they can go for a transient provider, but directly created on the production system, so that we don't have to create development, which is time consuming. So that is the main purpose of transient provider. Now what is the difference between a transient provider? Next is virtual provider. Now we know transient providers are created directly on production for rapid prototypes. They don't have any object created, it's just an index. Now how a transient provider is different from a virtual provider? We have Hana system, Hana information view under BW on Hana 9 package. The information view here is Jet Copa table 9. From Hana, we need to expose to BW. So we have two objects, transient provider and virtual provider. And then same as report. Now in the top you have reporting. So transient provider to reporting and virtual provider to reporting. So what's the difference here? View is same, data model in BW is different, UI is same. UI, backend data model is different, and how BW can handle both of them. So here the metadata is on the fly, but here the metadata is persisted on BW. So there is metadata. It is just an opposite of transient provider. For virtual providers, we need to create in development, transport to quality production. This is the regular way we create, virtual providers. When we say a virtual provider, virtual means no data, but it has metadata. Transient, no metadata, no data. Everything on the fly. But here we have metadata, no data. So data is accessed on the fly at the virtual provider. So you have more tight control on the metadata in the BW system. Whenever you want to have a tight control on the metadata on the BW system, then we create a virtual provider. Virtual providers are multi-dimensional objects. They are multi-dimensional objects. Transient provider is a two-dimensional object. It's a cube based on the star schema. Is a virtual provider. And this virtual provider, same we can expose to Excel. So now we know InfoCube. InfoCube is a multi-dimensional object. It is also a multi-dimensional object, but it persists data, means it can store data. You can physically store data. InfoCube physically stored data. What is the difference between InfoCube and virtual provider? InfoCube can physically store data, whereas virtual provider gets data on the fly. So to create a virtual provider, let's go to BW. So this time what we do is, without logging into the SAP GUI, I won't log into SAP GUI. I'll go to Hana Studio. The Hana Studio will use BW Modeler plugin. Click on BW Model plugin. Expand the system. Let's provide the username and password. Click OK. So we have info providers. Expand the info provider. Let's go to our info area. We create an info area called Jet Copa Data. Expand. So here we have cubes, info objects, data store object. Double click on any of the object. Enter the T code RSA1. And then in the RSA1 T code, I'll go to our info area that we created the other day, which is jet copa underscore data. I'll right click on this info area. Here we have create info cube, create virtual cube, virtual provider. Click on virtual provider. It is also a cube, but without physical data store. When you have with physical data, it becomes a cube. When you have without data, it becomes virtual. Click create, JIC9. So here you see the dimension. So when I expand the settings, the virtual info provider, this is based on the DTP. Please see here, this is based on data transfer process and info source. So virtual providers also can be created for BW. But we want to create a virtual provider. We want to create a virtual provider that is relevant to HANA. Virtual providers, we don't want to create a virtual provider that is for BW. We want for virtual provider for HANA system. So for that, I'm just trying to show the difference. So right click again, create virtual provider, JIC10. So please see virtual provider based on the DTP. We want based on HANA model. Click details, select the package, click on show list of values, click find for BW on HANA 9, enter. This is the package. Select the HANA information model, click show list of values. I created only one data model in this package. I'll select the model and click continue and click create. Once we click create, now the object is created. When you expand the settings, this time virtual provider based on SAP HANA model. So previously it was based on the DTP, based on the BW. Now we want to create based on HANA model. So for this, we require info objects. So the info objects we created on the other day, when we click on the info objects, if you expand the info area, we created 2 catalogs. Each of the catalog we created info object. So we have BUKRS7 as one info object. And then we have VV0107. So I'm going to map we're going to map BUKRS to the info object BUKRS 7. This is the field, this is the info object in BW, this is the measure, and this is the key figure, and this is the characteristic. So we're going to map for both these objects to the BW system. I'll go back to Hana, to the SAP Geo in Hana Studio. So in here, I'll go back and right click on dimensions, click info object direct input. So in the info objects, I'm going to enter the info object name, click continue. I'll copy the measure, right click on the key figures. The key figure measures are key figures in BW. Right click on key figure, info object direct input, copy paste, click continue. So here we have both these objects. Now in order to map objects of BW to the objects of HANA, right click on the characteristic info object and click on provider specific properties. Once we click on provider specific properties, here we can map the attribute name in HANA. So what is the attribute name for BUKRS? When I click on this show list of values, we have two attributes. So the attribute is BUKRS. I'll select, click continue. I'll right click on gross revenue, click provider specific properties. Map to the measure VV010. Click continue. So we're mapping info objects to the columns to HANA. And finally, activate the info object. Activate the virtual provider. Click continue. Click yes. Object is activated. Click on the info provider. The technical name of the object is ZIC10. So the technical name of the object is ZIC10. Now this virtual provider called ZIC10 access and reporting. So in the reporting, you can click start, all program, click on business explorer, click on query designer. The query designer is a designer. A query designer is to design a query. You can design your own question. So click on the query designer. Analyzer is to see the answer. The question is prepared in the query designer. For the design question, the answer is available in the analyzer. First I'm designing a question. Double click. Let's give the password. First I'm designing a query. To design a query in the Bex query designer. So I'll click on create new query. We'll click on create new query, click find, copy paste the technical name, search in the technical name, click find, select the object, click rows and columns, select company code ID in rows, gross revenue in the columns, click on query, click on save as. So once you click on save as, give the technical name and the description, provide the technical name and the description. This is the technical name and the description of the query. Key figures at the columns and characteristic at rows. So this is the design. So the characteristics at the rows and key figures at the columns. This is the query name. Click save. So this is the properties of the query. So this is the technical name of the query that we created. So after we create the query, so why are we creating query? The query is nothing but just like a projection. You can select required columns. You don't have to execute, we don't have to execute everything that is available in the virtual provider. We can take a part of those objects and create a projection on top of virtual provider using a query designer. And the query that I created now, which is, this is the name of the query, technical name of the query. So this query I can execute in the analyzer, Bex analyzer. So I'll click start, all program, click on Business Explorer, click on the analyzer, click on the analyzer, click on add-ins, click on open query, double click on BW on Hana, provide the username and password. Click Find, select the technical name, copy paste the object, click Find, double click on the object. So once we double click on the object, so it says that characteristic value 1000 of the characteristic BUCHARAS 7 is not alpha converted. So it says there's some issue in here. I'll just try to rectify this. So let me go back to the beta view. So we haven't created the info objects, but we reuse the same object that we created on the other day. So I'll just check the properties of the info objects. I'll go to the info object. I'll go to the Jet Copa data. Double click on the object. So let us see the properties in Hana. Let us see the properties inside Hana. Catalog, best schema, table, double click. There's varchar. Right click and open data preview. Let me go back. I'm just removing this conversion routine. There's a default conversion routine applied called alpha. I just remove this and try to execute the query again. I'll disconnect, connect again. Just give the username and password. Let me search again. Click find. Let me double click on the query. What I'm going to do is, instead of using this object, I'm going to create a new one. I'll right click on the catalog, create info object. Let me try to create a new one. I'm creating a new object called jetBukeRS8. So now I'm going to enhance this virtual provider. I'm going to change. I'll remove the previous object, which is jetBukeRS7. I'll go to change mode. So the object is locked. I have to close this object. I'll click on change. I'll remove this, I'll delete this, the old one. I'll insert a new object. Click on activate. I'm just trying to continue to use. So we need to map this object. Right click on this object, provider specific properties. I'll give the object name. I'm doing mapping from Hana. Same steps I'm doing here. I'll activate the object. I'm doing the same steps. Just I'm replacing the info object with a different info object, the newly created one. I'll go back to the query again. In the query, I have to even change in the query. So I'll open the query and I'll try to replace. So here you can highlight the technical names. You can highlight the key. So this is the old one. I'll remove this. Expand. Still it shows the old one for us. So what we have to do is we have to disconnect because it doesn't refresh here. You basically close the query and reopen the query again. I'll reopen the query again. I'll reopen the query again. Because just to change an info object, you see, I need to change at all the levels. But for transient provider, this is not needed. Transient provider can just change. But for virtual providers, because the metadata is maintaining on the BW, we need to change at every level. So that's the advantage of transient provider. when you compare with the virtual providers in terms of maintaining effortlessly you can maintain objects. So now I'll select the new info object. I'll select the measure. Click save. I can even replace this query. Instead of creating new, I'm creating a new query, but I can replace this as well. If you want to replace, you need to click open. Double click on the query. This is to replace, remove, select the new object, click save. I save the query. I go back to the analyzer. I'll disconnect, connect again. So it says SAP logon INI file don't found. So it's unable to relaunch analyzer. So I'll close and reopen again. Click start. I'll open the analyzer again. This I'm doing the same things again and again. Click add in, open query, double click on BW. Click find, copy paste the technical name. This is the technical name. I'll open this in the analyzer again. Click find the technical name, double click, and let's see it executes. It says the characteristic Bucharest 7 is deleted from InfoCube edges the query. So again the same error. I'll just check in the backend. I'll check in the offline and let you know tomorrow what is the issue. And once you execute, if everything is correct, we should be able to see the output here at the data preview. So the main difference between the transient and a virtual provider, you see when I change an object in the underlying, I have to change at every level. Not only changing, but we need to record this change, we need to transport the change. It is time consuming. That's what is very time consuming when the data model changes frequently. When the data model changes frequently on a daily basis, it's difficult to adjust the data model. So for that reason, whenever you have frequently changing scenarios, go for a transient provider. A virtual provider is when you create the metadata in BW. You see in rsdd_hm_publish, I haven't created any info object. Everything is automatically created by system in the first case. But in the second case, I manually created right from cubes, info objects, building up the cubes, mapping, because the metadata is in the BW. So what is the advantage of virtual provider? The advantage of virtual provider is the metadata is inside the BW. When you have the metadata you can authorize what data should be seen by what user. Because the total control of the metadata is in BW, you can control the data that is inside the metadata by using the authorizations concept. Tight control over the data that is shown to business using the virtual providers. That is the advantage of the virtual provider. So even transient, virtual, all these are different ways that you can expose data from HANA to BW system. So that is for today's session. Just to recap today's session. So today's session is mainly about how to expose data models from HANA to BW using a transient provider, which are rapidly creating prototypes directly on the production system, and virtual providers maintain the metadata but data on the fly. Both these ways to expose views from HANA to the reporting. Participants may have any questions. Please type in your question. I'll read out your question and answer your question. Thank you. So we have one question here. Can we have Fury or Lumira connected to HANA for reporting? And what is the advantage of sending the models to BW for reporting? Yes, we can connect Lumira and Fury for reporting on HANA. The advantage is you can use the existing customers. And the customers are maintaining BW for so many years now. So you can use those capabilities of the existing data models so that everything we don't have to create from scratch. It means that you're creating new data models. You have existing data models in BW. You can combine them In a composite provider, the new data model from Hana, the existing data models from BW, you can combine and create new scenarios, new ways to analyze data. You're trying to mix and match data models based on the business requirement. So we'll see, once we create all these objects, we can see few scenarios based on composite providers. So then we can get the real use case of these objects. All this we are creating is, you have some data models in BW, some data models in Hana, you can combine them. When you design as a modeler, you can use some data models from BW if the customer is already having BW and Hana, so that we don't have to again recreate the same business logic that is already existing in BW. Just to reuse, we can reuse the existing functionality. Okay, so in tomorrow, we just today see two objects. So today we discuss about transient providers and virtual providers. Tomorrow we see few more objects that are based on mixed modeling. There is composite provider, open ODS views, and DB Connect in tomorrow's session. Thank you everyone to attend today's session. Good morning and good night to everyone. We'll see you tomorrow, same time. Thank you.